Judy.
My name is Steve Diora.
Well, I'm Hispanic. Grew up more with the Caucasians, really, because I lived on a farm. So, that's who my parents worked for.
I know that my father's ancestors from a long time ago came from Madrid, Spain. My mother is some Indian descent, but she's also, some of her family came from Mexico a long time ago also. I'm Hispanic, but also when I got a little older, like everybody else, like my generation went through, I'm Chicano. I'm Chicano, that's what all there is to it. I'm American. I'm American, but I'm Chicano. I feel like that's just part of what I went through in my life, and I just thought, well, if my father and my mother were like maybe from Spain and from Mexico, and then they were just here, the family tree says that we've been here forever, and that's okay. But I'm not saying that the descendants from a long time ago, with my mother's side, were probably from Mexico.
Well, I grew up in the country. So we were, we called it the country. It was 2 miles out of center. And we were, I don't know, we didn't really go anywhere or do anything. We didn't grow up in town. So we didn't really know about a lot of things that happened in town. We were more isolated. We did our own thing out there, and we weren't really even allowed to go into town.
I think when I kind of grew up, we were kind of like different things for us at home. Everything was just always mellow all the time, but when we were always outside my home, it seemed like we were always into these little Chicano trips. The Chicano got to do this and Chicano's got to do that, and that's kind of where I came from at that point. Like I told my sons a while ago, one thing that I never really touched base with them is that when I was in about middle school, they had a strike in Centerville for the lettuce, and when that happened, the reason I probably would have been involved in that strike, but I couldn't be involved in that strike because my father was a foreman for the lettuce company, and I thought he knew that we were going to be out in the fields working, and I thought, well, no, I don't think I should be out in the fields working. A situation where he was the man of the house, and he says, we're going to work, so I'm going to work. And it's something that I'm not, that's when, they talk about Cesar Chavez and Corky Gonzalez, but that's where I was at, is that I did what my father wanted me to do. My friends kind of looked at me, and I think they knew me well enough. They knew where I was coming from, and they knew I was working because I had to work. But of course I would like to have been out on the road saying, hey, huelga this, strike, strike, strike. Of course I would have loved to have been able to do that, but I couldn't do that because my father said, hey, we are going to work as a family, and that's all there is to it. We are going to work. I didn't have anything to do with the movement because I was afraid of what my parents thought. My job was just to work for the family, and I didn't take any part in the movement. I'm not saying that I don't believe in any of the movement, because I did believe in the movement, but I just thought I can't really be involved in the movement because of my family situation. I think probably the first discrimination against me was that when I started school, I graduated when I was 19 years old. I would have graduated when I was 18, but I graduated when I was 19 because they didn't. You see, when I went to school, I was old enough to be in the first grade, but they didn't let me go to the first grade because my English was very little. Most of my language is Spanish speaking, and they thought, well, they probably got in contact with my parents and said, hey, he's going to have a hard time being in first grade because his language is just a lot of Spanish. So that's probably the first kind of discrimination that I had against me at that point. And I can't say that I liked it because I couldn't say anything. I was only in kindergarten. I thought I was just happy to go to school.
Well, I didn't speak Spanish when I grew up.
No?
No. My parents probably spoke some, and maybe not a lot, but we were never taught to speak Spanish.
In my situation, the reason I spoke Spanish is my mom and dad spoke a lot to us in Spanish when we were just growing up, just toddlers, and that was okay. And then after I got to the point where I got a little older, I was working in the fields every year in the lettuce, and when I was working in the lettuce, we always had people that would come in to work with us in the lettuce or potatoes from Mexico. And the reason I got good at speaking Spanish is because I spoke to them constantly. That's all there is to it. And the reason that I didn't speak Spanish to my kids is because it was, I'm going to be honest with you, it was kind of a taboo. You know, hey, this is America, and I agree with America where you have to speak English, but it was, they would always say, hey, you should be speaking English. You should be speaking English. And I spoke Spanish because I loved Spanish. And right now I think my Spanish is wonderful. I can speak really good in Spanish.
At that time, we didn't have as many students per se coming in from like Mexico and stuff where, you know, you were really exposed to it. So we didn't really hardly talk even in school.
And I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people, a lot of teachers would say like, hey, you know, you need to make sure that you're good in Spanish, you're good in English, because, you know, hey, that's all there is to it. So I came from that aspect also. My counselor, when I was a senior in high school, she says, what are your plans, Steve? I said, well, I'm going to go to Adams State College and I'm going to be a teacher. And she goes, you're Hispanic, don't you think it'd be a little easier? Maybe you'd go to like a junior college and maybe do something else, like get into diesel mechanic or something like that. I says, no. I says, I'm going to go to Adams State College and I'm going to become a teacher. Okay, one day I was working on the fields in the lettuce, and these people from the Alma program came up and they said, hey, you know, you're Hispanics. We got a program at Adams State College through the Alma program where you can go to school. We could help you get your grants, and we could help you get your financial aid and everything for going to Adams State. So we would like you to go to this. So then I started with the Alma program. In the first year, I was just a student where I would go in, I would take classes, and then I'd go in and they'd have the counselor or they'd have tutors that would help me all the time. And then I did that the first 2 years, and then my junior and senior year, what I did is my junior year I was a tutor, and my senior year I was a counselor, and that's how I got involved in school. And they just says, and they would always come across with like, it's your right because you're Hispanic. Just because you're not white doesn't mean that you can't go to school. It's your right because you're Hispanic. If you want to go to school, we will help you go to school. And I went to school.
And his dad didn't even want him to go to school.
No?
Oh no. As a matter of fact, there again, just like when they had the strike, my dad said, no, you're out of high school. You need to get a job in the potato salad and work in the potato salad. And I was so afraid of my dad, and I wanted to go to school so bad. When I would get my grant money, sometimes I would say, Dad, I'll help you pay the bills with some of my grant money. Even if I wasn't living at home with him, I was living at Adams State College because I was living on the dorms. Gerald Tall, as a matter of fact. Gerald Tall's still there. And I was living in room 66. And you know, I thought to myself, Dad, I'll help you pay the bills with some of my grant money. And I did do that. And then it got to the point when I was a sophomore, I got married to my wonderful wife. And then 1976, I got my BA degree. I got an elementary education with an emphasis in special ed. And then I started teaching, and then I went back and I got my master's degree in the educationally handicapped, and I graduated from Adams State College with a master's in 1980. And I taught for 29 years, and I took early retirement. Now I'm substituting, and I live in Thornton, Colorado. It was like, I think if you were going to Adams State College and you know what you were doing and you were doing okay in your classes, they kind of left you alone. But if you weren't, they kind of like said, hey, you know, you're not doing well because you're Hispanic, you're Chicano. But I think that's kind of what the culture was at that point. And I'm not taking anything away from Adams State College. I think I got a good education at Adams State College. I got my BA and my MA there, and I'm happy with Adams
They
State
were
College.
more Chicano oriented at that time.
Yep.
They were?
And when I graduated from Manatee State College with my Bachelor's of Arts, that's when the whole Chicano power trip movement was going. I graduated in 1976. Every interview that I went to, every recruiter that was there would say, "You're hired. You're Hispanic. You can get in any place. You can teach wherever you want." And I went to interview after interview, and they would always say, "Your name is Dihura. We'll hire you. We'll hire you." The first school district that didn't hire me just because I was Chicano, they hired me for what I knew was Granite School District in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I went to Utah and I taught my first year there.
Yeah.
And then I came back to Center because I missed my mommy. Miss my mom. I think what I would like to add is that I kind of failed in a sense because they spoke to me a lot in Spanish. And my 3 sons, I know 2 of them right now, would probably be making a little more money than what they're doing if I would have taught them how to speak Spanish. My son who works in the hospital, who works with people that speak Spanish, he knows what's going on, more of what's going on with the people that speak Spanish. And I have another son who teaches at the elementary school, the same thing with him. If he knew a little more Spanish, it would help him also. And I think if I have anything to add is that I should have done that.